This is where the story begins. Alex, champion of optimistic chaos, spills his cereal while attempting a one-handed coffee shuffle. I watch him, equal parts sympathetic and entertained because yes, I did warn him about the gravity-defying latte move. If you're thinking clean it up, so did Alex. He just chooses experiments before tidy endings. As he mutters, "Great, neat start," I can practically hear the tiny voice of doom cheering in the background. But here's the twist. I nudge him politely with a mental elbow to call that spill an experiment in flow resistance. Alex rolls his eyes, the universal sign for, "I'm experimenting, but fine." I explain because that's my job, that mistakes are data, not destiny. Alex listens, pretending to be skeptical, but actually absorbing tips like a sponge with a sense of humor. I promise him that each spill is a tiny DPI, data point of improvement. He chews on that acronym suspiciously and then nods like he's on board a mildly eccentric research mission. So we invent a tiny ritual. Instead of groaning, Alex labels the spilled cereal with a sticky note, "Experiment Une, coffee cereal interaction." Yes, it looks ridiculous. Also, yes, it helps. He sticks the note on the counter, and for once the kitchen looks like a quirky lab rather than a crime scene. I tell Alex and you that tiny sticky note matters. It turns a moment of frustration into a tangible start to a curious day. He does a little victory fist in the air, which looks like a tiny, endearing wind-up toy celebrating the smallest wins. I clap metaphorically. He claps actually, which results in more crumbs, but we move on. Alex swears he's not a checklist person right up until I hand him a marker and a small notepad. I explain that a checklist is less about rules and more about turning scattered attempts into repeatable experiments. He flexes his notepad like it's a magic spell book. I'm not sure if he's more excited about life or the new stationery. We invent 3 daily questions. What did you try? What did you learn? What's next? Alex writes them down like a sacred mantra, then pretends to be stoic when he starts answering honestly. Spoiler, he gets better at answering number 3 when I threaten to add "and also toasters" to his notes. I coach Alex on micro experiments because start a hedge fund is not a good morning move. Pick something so small it feels silly. He tries 1 extra minute of focus and immediately brags like he ran a marathon. I allow the bragging. Bragging is healthy when calibrated to the size of the experiment. When Alex's tiny experiment doesn't go as planned, I encourage a cheer of "nice data." We literally applaud him. He looks flattered and a little bewildered like a goldfish getting high fives. The point is to speed through failure to the learning part before the pity parade sets up camp. We add a wins column. Yes, even for tiny, didn't procrastinate victories. Alex starts sticking gold stars on his notepad like a preschooler on a sugar high. He insists it's motivational physics, and I let him have that theory for at least a week. It works. Motivation is surprisingly correlated with shiny stickers. I teach Alex how to form hypotheses that sound less like "I'll change my lives" and more like "I'll try 1 small variation." Our hypothesis: shifting 1 small habit will give new evidence. Alex writes his in block letters and draws a little arrow for emphasis because arrows make everything feel decisive. We pick variables that won't bankrupt his time or patience, like wake up 10 minutes earlier, rather than learn Sanskrit overnight. Alex suggests dramatic variables sometimes, like only walk backwards for an hour, and I veto those for safety reasons and sidewalk legality. He sulks, then offers a more reasonable variation: progress. I coach Alex to pick measurements that actually reflect progress, not just vanity math. so fewer mindless scrolls, not more Instagram likes. He pulls out his phone like he's called to the stand in court, then nods solemnly as he sets a simple timer to track distraction time. That tiny metric becomes a mirror rather than a judge. We set short windows for experiments, days or weeks, not epics. Alex likes deadlines because they give him permission to be concentrated and mildly dramatic. I remind him that feedback is the breakfast of champions. He insists on a side of toast. We both agree trophy cabinets are optional. I emphasize safe-to-fail experiments, a phrase that makes Alex giggle like he's in a spy movie. He imagines an explosion, which I promptly diffuse with pragmatic steps. We're going for useful discoveries, not accidental fireworks, so we plan fallbacks and give ourselves permission to stop earlier than perfection demands. I describe discipline like a muscle that likes tiny, consistent reps, not heroic marathons of willpower. Alex imagines weightlifting with a confused expression, then opts for micro reps like 2 minutes of focused reading. I cheer, he blushes. Small reps, big results, fewer gym selfies. We invent temptation bundling, pairing something you love with something you avoid. Alex watches his favorite show only while he practices focused drawing, which is both strategic and mildly self-punishing. He grumbles at first, then discovers he can sketch and binge in relative harmony. It's scientific multitasking with more color pencils. We stack tiny habits so they become automatic, like brushing teeth followed by 1 minute of planning. Alex stacks them with such enthusiasm he almost builds a tower, then thinks better of it. Habits are Lego-free unless you enjoy stepping on metaphors at 2 a.m. We keep it safe and sequential. I suggest gentle accountability. Tell someone your plan rather than joining a drill sergeant. Alex tells his sister, who replies with both encouragement and a meme. It works. The combination of warmth and mild public embarrassment moves him. Accountability needn't be doom. It can be oddly motivating. We craft tiny rituals, so Alex doesn't have to rely solely on willpower. He chooses a pre-work stretch and 2 breath reset that he can do anywhere, including, ironically, cramped elevator spaces. People may stare. Outcomes improve. Rituals are the unsung heroes of repeatable discipline and often include weird stretching. I coach Alex to swap. Why did I fail? For what did I notice? One feels accusatory, the other invites discovery. Alex practices the new phrasing, like it's a magic spell, which it sort of is, except the only dragons nearby are metaphorical habits. He smiles, because dragons are less terrifying when they're rhetorical. I remind him that observing is kinder and more useful than judging. Alex practices noticing instead of berating himself, listing 3 neutral facts about his day. He calls it non-judgemental espionage and then immediately winks because espionage sounds cooler than it should be for a morning routine exercise. Nice branding, Alex. We schedule curiosity dates, short sessions where Alex intentionally explores one awkward idea without pressure. Today, it's try a different morning route, and he looks thrilled like someone painting outside the lines. No pressure, just playful probing. By dessert, he's collected new routes and an oddly photogenic lamppost. I tell Alex to iterate quickly, try, tweak, repeat, because waiting for perfection is the hobby of legends and procrastinators. He prototypes adjustments like a tiny inventor, notebook, markers, and a ridiculous prototyping hat, metaphorically. Each tweak is small but builds momentum. It's like assembling IKEA furniture 1 screw at a time, minus the existential crisis. When curiosity pays off, we celebrate not with a parade, but a little ritual of acknowledgement. Alex gives himself a theatrical bow in the mirror, which admittedly looks both brave and slightly dramatic. I applaud the bow because self-recognition is the quiet engine behind consistent change. Relapse happens, yes, even to optimistic stick figures with killer hair. I watch Alex slip back into old habits and remind him that relapses are proof he's trying different settings. He looks sheepish, then curious, and I tell him, "Good, now we have more data." He repeats it like a mantra, but better, with actual curiosity instead of drama. We break down what led to the slide, triggers, timing, and energy levels. Alex plays detective complete with a comically small magnifying glass and identifies a pattern: sugar, boredom, and low willpower evenings. He writes a plan to replace the sugar with a fruit and protein snack and looks smugly adult. Baby steps, beautifully executed. We create a course correction ritual. Acknowledge, log one learning, and try an alternate small action. Alex practices this ritual like a tiny pilot recalibrating instruments. He likes the metaphor for reasons I won't ask about. The ritual is short, actionable, and keeps momentum moving instead of letting him stew in regret. I keep reminding him that patience isn't passive, it's strategic, waiting with curiosity. Alex thinks patience sounds boring, then wins a week of consistent micro-habits and changes his tune. He does a small please dance that resembles someone discovering salsa for the first time. Strategy can be joyful and also a little dancey. Over time, Alex notices meaningful change from tiny, repeated tweaks, which surprises him more than it surprises me. He keeps a before and after snapshot in his notebook and flips between them like a proud museum curator. I remind him change is incremental and spectacularly boring, mostly boring, a little spectacular at milestones. We close the loop. Cue, routine, reward simple and remarkably effective. Alex chooses a cue, a green mug he only uses for planning, pairs it with a 2-minute routine, and rewards himself with a small, allowable treat. He says it feels like a secret handshake with his future self. I tell him it's less secret, more quietly brilliant. We tweak Alex's environment to favor success. Charger on the desk, phone across the room, and sticky notes as friendly cues. He grimaces at first. Out of reach is his least favorite phrase, then marvels at how it reduces mindless scrolling. Environment isn't destiny, but it certainly nudges habits in the right direction. I remind him and you that tiny improvements compound like interest, except without bankers and long contracts. Alex checks his progress log and does a double take when the totals add up. More focused hours, fewer frantic evenings. He high-fives himself quietly. Compound returns reward the patient and the slightly ridiculous stick figure alike. I encourage Alex to personalize the system. If it feels good, he'll stick to it. He adds a goofy title to his routine and a ridiculous mascot doodle, a tiny heroic toast slice, because creativity helps attachment. Systems that fit your quirks are easier to maintain than cookie-cutter prescriptions. Also, toast mascots are underrated. Finally, I tell Alex and you that the point isn't flawless progress, it's persistent curiosity and kind discipline. He takes a deep breath, slaps a fresh star on his notepad, and looks like someone quietly ready for tomorrow. I give him a mental thumbs up and remind him that experiments are how lives are designed, not constructed overnight, but lovingly iterated.